What's up, my wizards? Dev from MTG back again with Igby. Hey, Igby, how you doing, buddy? And today we've got something really cool. This is budget blue-white control. A lot of people have asked for a budget control deck. I think I finally got something for you today for a little less than $50 off of TCG Players. So let's check it out. It's pretty awesome. Well, we're only playing 3 creatures in this build, and I've seen some decks that only play 1 or 2, you know. But this is the premier thing that all these blue-white control decks are playing, and they're not playing Jace. Obviously, this is a budget deck, half a copy of Jace, which is blow the budget out of the water. So what are we doing? We're playing 2 copies of Halimar Tidecaller. I have liked this since the first time I saw it. In this deck, it's particularly awesome. We're playing 8 copies of cards with Awaken. We're really just playing 2 different cards, but 8 copies of them. And Halimar Tidecaller is just like, it's sort of a mini, you know, Snapcaster Mage, and it does something that Jace sort of does too, you know. So especially in a budget build, it's really good. Now, I don't know really why the blue-white control decks, the real ones that I've seen, the competitive ones, don't play Jace. I haven't found an explanation for that, but hardly any of them play Jace. They almost always go, however, with Halimar Tidecaller. Now, again, perfect for a budget build, and just everything that it does is crazy. It's going to get our 2 most important cards back, and in a way put threats on the table other than itself. The card is really good. Oh, he's sleepy. We have 1 copy of Pearl Lake Ancient in the deck. Yeah, this was sort of an old control finisher back in the early days of Con Standard, you know. Still legal to play, so, and it's only like 75 cents, still a perfectly valid control finisher. Now, you wouldn't think that you know, save ability on him would play well with a lot of cards with Awakening, but it sort of does. You know, we got 28 lands in this deck because we are a dedicated control deck. So if you paid 7 for it, we can usually return 3 lands to our hand, and at that point, if we've got this guy on the board, we actually really don't care about our Awakened lands that much. But in a lot of the builds I've seen, there's only like 1 copy of Halimar Tidecaller, and then the rest you just sort of rely on your Awakened lands to do the rest of the work for you. So you don't even need to play this 1 Pearl Lake Ancient. 11 counter spells in the deck. We are playing 4 copies of Scatter the Winds, very obviously, because this is sort of an Awaken deck. It's sort of Awaken control, but we're not playing Noyandar. I haven't seen that in any of them, you know. And we're still trying to make, you know, Noyandar the Jeskai Ascendancy combo thing. We're just not really sure at the end of the day how great that is. We just want to awaken our lands and control the game, and just eventually sort of grind in 3 to 6 damage at a time, you know. One writer that I saw, I think it was on Star City, he compared the deck sort of to old-timey draw-go that used to play Stalking Stones. This thing I'm going to put up on the screen somewhere right here. Like the only creature the deck played, and just late game when it established control, it could turn on Stalking Stones and put the opponent on a clock. That's sort of the same principle that we're utilizing here, except that our Stalking Stones counters spells and blows creatures up. Like, that's a pretty cool and sound strategy for a control deck, and Scatter the Winds is actually very, very good. 4 copies of Clash of Wills. Again, I've referred to this as maybe the best counterspell in Standard, you know. I'd say that on the second turn, this is really on turns, you know, 2 through 5. a lot of games of Standard Magic, this is just as good as Silumgar's Scorn, you know, and we don't have to pay 2 blue for it. We're not locked into doing that. We can pay any amount of color, of even colorless mana. We are running a couple of colorless lands in the deck, so that's pretty important. All in all, though, this will almost always just counter their 2-drop. It's very consistent in doing that, even their 3-drop, you know, and that's just very important for a control deck. And a card like this is really good right now, where so much of the format is just about playing on curve. 3 one-of counter spells in this deck to sort of finish off the counterspell suit. 1 copy of Horribly Awry, 1 copy of Negate, and 1 copy of Disdainful Stroke in this particular build. Often you'll see a 2 of any of these, and then the other one sort of left in the sideboard, you know. 2 Disdainful Stroke in the main, and then 1 Negate in the sideboard I've seen an awful lot of. I'm just going to play 1 of each of them in the main deck. This sort of just covers all your bases. You know, Disdainful Stroke, good. Horribly Awry, good, especially against Abzan, the Rhino, namely. And then, you know, Negate just is good against more than just in the mirror match against other control. You know, it's good against the sort of Atarka Red thing that's really important right now. That's got Atarka's Command and Teamer Battle Rage and, you know, Titan Strength and stuff like that. So Become Immense, you know, all of those are spells that you can just negate and not have to worry about getting double striked or whatever. So important against a lot of different stuff. Is all I'm saying. just like we're playing 11 counter spells, we're also playing 11 removal elements in the deck, you know. It's starting with one copy of Celestial Flare in the main, and one copy of Swift Reckoning. I can talk about these at the same time. Not everyone plays Swift Reckoning. I really like the card, even with the presence of Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise and stuff. Still really like the card. I think it's a gem, and some people like it too. Celestial Flare, you can often finagle that, especially with the right land base, to where you're able to, you know, Celestial Flare second turn, their combat step, and then third turn you still have mana up to the right mana to Scatter the Winds. So, you know, especially again when you have the right mana, it's pretty easy. So, yeah, both these cards go in the deck. 4 copies of Stasis Snare in this thing. Stasis Snare, very, very important. Gives us this, basically an instant speed. It's like a murder, you know. Just an instant speed Banishing Light that only hits creatures is quite good. I mean, I don't really have to explain too much about that. It keeps us from having to play Silk Wrap or Suspension Field in the main or the side, you know. This is just an all-star removal piece in the deck. Great, great card. 1 copy of Quarantine Field, which is just, you know, copy number 5. Parity sort of with Stasis Snare, you know. And if you just pay, you know, 6, you're achieving parity with Stasis Snare, so that's good. And you can snag any permanent. The only thing that we really have against Planeswalkers, which is kind of a pain other than just countering them, which we'll be doing a lot of. But once they hit the board, you know, we really don't have much protection against them, so this helps with that. And to finish off the removal pieces here, 4 copies of Planar Outburst. You know, sometimes you'll see 3, but I think that's foolish. I think you want to play all 4. And in this deck, we are playing some creatures, you know. This is why the deck usually only plays like 1, maybe 2 Halimar Tidecallers and then calls it a day, you know, because we have this 4 whole copies of Mass Removal, because when awakened, it's crazy. And you can awaken this on like turn 12 or 13. I know that sounds like a long shot and a long way into the game, but if the deck is doing the thing it's supposed to do, then you're definitely going to get that far into the game. And an Awakened Planar Outburst is going to win you the game kind of a lot. So there is that, you know. No matter what, it's going to blow the board away. So that's good in and of itself. Why not leave yourself behind a creature? That's awesome. And then the next turn you can cover it with Scatter the Winds, and that's, you know, you're going to have like 2 guys on the board. They're going to have nothing. So that's pretty awesome too. We're playing 7 other spells, sort of advantage/other spells, you know. We're playing 1 copy of Anticipate in the main. I like this. You know, and I always have. It's sort of costed to where in the mid-game you can do something, like counter something or Stasis Snare something, and still afford to, at the end of their turn, anticipate and sort of dig. Or it's costed to where in the mid-game you can anticipate if you don't have a counter spell in your hand, for a counter spell, you know. Put Anticipate on the stack above their thing, and then, just for newer players, put Anticipate on the stack above their spell, and then dig for your counter spell. If you find it, you can then put your counter spell on the stack above their thing, so essentially. So that's awesome. To basically be able to dig for a response at instant speed is always good, and Anticipate is perfect for that, and it's costed very well too. We're playing 2 copies of Ojutai's Command in the deck. Ojutai's Command is sweet, even if we can't really hit any of our creatures with that first thing, which is, you know, you see it hit Jace, you see it hit Soulfire Grandmaster, and a couple of other things. We're not using that ability at all, but it's still important to sort of help against aggro on the 4th turn, if we can make it that far against some of these aggro decks in the format, but we should, especially, you know, game 2 and 3 will be fine against aggro. But in any case, I digress. Just everything the card does, except for that, except for returning a guy, is just perfect for a blue-white control deck. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't play it. No brainer. I'm going to split the difference here. We're playing 2 copies of Dig Through Time and 2 copies of Treasure Cruise. Although every single, you know, big boy blue-white control deck that I saw over this past weekend played 4 copies of Dig and no Treasure Cruise at all. But this is a budget deck, so we have to split the difference just a little bit. Although I was just about to rear up to say the cards are functionally similar, but not really. Dig Through Time is just superior in nearly every way. You know, being able to dig that far and get the 2 best cards is just unbelievable. So if you have the money, play 4 Dig Through Time and cut the Treasure Cruise. But vital, vital element to the deck that you have these. 28 lands in the deck. Now, in a lot of these builds, I've seen 4 copies of Blighted Cataract, even at the top level, you know. But in testing, I didn't really like that, you know. Of course, if you have the money, Prairie Stream and Flooded Strand absolutely have to be added to this deck, you know, just for consistency purposes. Especially Prairie Stream and Flooded Strand is great because we're trying to dig through time. It really helps with that. That's why we're playing Evolving Wilds instead. But if you've got them, Flooded Strands every day, Prairie Stream for both of them, yes. Here's a sideboard right here, which really won't cost you that much more, you know. All things considered, this is a very, very cheap sideboard. And this is a sideboard that's sort of an amalgamation of all the sideboards I saw over this past weekend. So you know, we really didn't have to change much, and we can keep it really cheap. So here's the sideboard. It works against a lot of different stuff. And finally, here are your power rankings. I haven't been testing this deck for like super long, but it is just a classic control deck. It does the right things right, and it does, you know, stuff that it doesn't care about poorly. But, you know, it doesn't care about those things, so it doesn't matter if it does those things poorly. You know, final score of 59, which doesn't sound like that much, but this is budget, you know. The power ranking itself will go way up with the addition of Gideons and dig through times, you know. And I suggest you take out the Pearl Location, maybe the Swift Reckoning, and definitely switch the Treasure Cruises out, and maybe even take out a Halimar Tidecaller. But you're adding 2 Gideons, you're adding 2 digs one way or the other, and of course, switch around the land base. But the deck stands a lot to gain. It can be way more consistent, even though it's a 9 in consistency. It does everything we want it to do, but the land base will increase it to a 10. You know, a 2-color control deck is just often very, very good in the consistency department and in many other departments as a result. So don't let that 59 final score fool you. The deck is actually very, very stable and can win pretty easily. Well, that's all I've got for now, you guys. Now, next time, I'm going to do red-black aggro, guaranteed. Although I don't know whether I want to do Eldrazi aggro, or if I want to just do red-black aggro, which is actually a pretty important deck right now. A lot of people are talking about it. Placed fairly well in a lot of events over the last weekend or two, or just the last weekend. So red-black aggro might actually be real. So do we want to see the Eldrazi thing, you know, which has some things going for it, Ghost Fireblade and Barrage Tyrant, namely. Or do we want to see sort of what people are doing at the competitive level with black-red? And, you know, it's a fairly good aggro deck. I've played a couple of games with it myself, and I like it a lot. So what do you guys want to see? Let me know. We'll do it next time. I've also got an idea for a $20 mono blue control deck. You know, just keep the budget even lower, and we can do a lot of things with mono blue in this format. So I want to know how you feel about that too. I'm Dev from SPMTG. If you enjoyed the content, do the things. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hey, Igby, you got up. And yeah, we'll see you next time. I'm Dev. Thanks for watching, my wizards. You're right back down, aren't you? You're just so lazy and cute.